All right, welcome to the H37P podcast brought to you by Portal. And my name's Brandon Parkhurst, and I am a human being that struggles like everybody else. I facilitate somatic psychotherapy. I'm a surfer, musician, all that stuff. But for the most part, like I said, I'm just a guy that has the ups and downs like everybody else. And today, I'm so freaking excited to have my boy, Tanner Wayne.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Tanner Wayne, TW.
Yeah.
Do you know what this is?
Palo Sant, a little PS. Palo Santos.
No kitties. You can't smoke it.
You could. I don't know. It probably won't be good for you. Probably won't be that good for you.
This stuff's really amazing. Some people will say it gets the spirits out. The super spiritual people, like the bad spirits, it gets them out.
Like sage?
Exactly. And then some people will be like, it smells good.
I like it better than sage.
You like it better?
Mm-hmm.
It's a little crispier. Mm-hmm. Sage a little denser.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. It's just so beautiful. And so, did you get some of these?
From us? From
yes.
here?
Yes.
No.
Did you get some of these from your own company?
No.
Portal?
No. Where am I at?
So,
Hook me up.
What we're doing today, Tanner, is we're, are you familiar with like war, army, like recon, like army, every sect of the military has a recon department, reconnaissance. They send out some badasses and they go out and they're reconning to find out what the lay of the land is, what's out there, and then they report back, gather the information to best assess how to move forward. I would consider us a recon crew, a two-man recon team right now.
Whoa.
In the area of human development, mental health, emotional intelligence, all of that stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Because it would be safe to say we're trying to find our way on how to settle in and express ourselves to the world because we struggle. Mm-hmm. You struggle?
Yep, I struggle.
I struggle.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of people out there who are struggling. Mm-hmm. And through my struggles, especially when I was first learning how to deal with my struggles, when someone came to me and said, hey, you're struggling? Let me tell you how to not struggle. This is what you need to do. Here's what's wrong with you. I said this, fuck you. And I just stayed in my struggle. And then when somebody came to me and said, oh, bro, you're struggling? I struggle too. Here's what happened to me. And they just started talking about their thing. Mm-hmm. I immediately settled in and I was like, oh, I want to be around this. And then I felt safe, I guess would be the word, safe enough to express what my struggles were, and something really magical happened. We aligned in that place.
I have to probably catch myself more when I'm trying to help people and instead just tell them what I've done. And it's just that quick shift of how you're expressing it, because again, either of us can go for an hour, hours, days about what to do, but literally you just shift it to, this is what I did. Take it or leave it.
Yeah.
But that's more of a welcoming thing to accept as a human rather than this is what you need to do. But at the same time, I catch myself just telling people, yo, just go work out.
Just go work out.
Things that are not if you're going to say, no, I don't want to, it's like, all right, whatever. But most of what I catch myself being like, stop telling people what to do. Most of the time I'm just telling them, go read a book. Go find a book that you can resonate with personally. Go work out in any form. Yeah. That's what I end up telling people. And for that, I don't feel too resentful that I'm telling people to do that.
Right. And I just want to name, there is some wiggle room in there, right? This is what I do for a living. So
yeah, I'm not going to go and tell people, oh, okay, well, tomorrow morning you need to do Wim Hof. And then you need to ice bath.
Right.
But work out, read books.
Right.
Just try that.
Yeah, and it's hey, I don't know. Yeah, so it's the same thing. There's wiggle room. It's you set the basic intention is that we all struggle. And then you know what it's like to have a panic attack stuck in a van. And so if you go, hey, do these things, I'm going to go, yeah, I'm going to do that under the umbrella that we all struggle, right?
Yeah.
So there's some play.
To give a context, I talked to Brandon about my first panic attack, which, funny enough, it was my first known, this is a panic attack, right? Like, I probably had 10 panic attacks before that, but there was no name for it, I guess. Like, the earliest I can think of is when I played baseball as a kid. I'd go up to swing, and I'd have to have, like, one of my parents describe it better, but, like, right as I was gonna swing, I would just start bawling my eyes out. And my dad would have to come up to the cage and be like, dude, you're a badass. You got this, you got this, you got this. And then I would hit it out of the park. Whatever.
Wow.
And my parents didn't really explain or like tell me or like own the fact that I've had anxiety my whole life. In the 90s, it's like whatever. Unless it's like an everyday thing where like a parent's having to go, what's up with my kid? We need to figure this out. First day of school and stepping up to the plate as a baseball player. These are all things that give your kids anxiety, right? Like, and it's like things of life where it's like, yeah, this is normal for this to be happening. Except for me, like first day of, let's say, 7th grade, I am throwing up bile because nothing's in my system. I'm just throwing up, crying my eyes out. And my best friend who's at the house to go to middle school with me is looking at me going, what the fuck is up with this fucking guy? And even then, I didn't sit there and go, I have anxiety. I'm 13. I don't know what anxiety is. You know what I mean? Like maybe stress was the only word that was used around those times. Like mental health wasn't a huge conversation at that point. But like looking back, I definitely have had anxiety to a certain extent my whole life, but not really consistently until it was consistent where I'm like, okay, I got to do something about this. But it was all normal moments to have anxiety as a kid, except mine was times 10 compared to who I was sitting around. Which again, even still, if it was 2024 and this was happening, I'm sure my parent would have been like, okay, what can we do? What can we do? But when it's 90, whatever, kids stress. I don't know. Why are you so stressed?
Totally.
Go to school.
Yeah.
And unfortunately enough for me, in regards to my parents seeking extra help for me, I would go from I'm throwing up before school to I am the class clown by day 5.
Wow.
For the rest of my high school or middle school career. So it's like, how much weight are they putting on my stress if I'm also hitting on my cooking teacher and like getting in trouble for being this crazy outspoken guy? But I feel like also there's been like a under level, some sort of subconscious level of anxiety. And until, I got in my like adult years and I'm doing crazier stuff, in terms of like career and stuff, that it makes sense that like that's when like the full panic happens.
Dude, something just happened for me when you're saying that. And just so you guys know out there, Tanner Wayne is a highly talented dude. We all have our skills and our talents. You have found yours and you've made a life out of it as one of the best metal drummers around, hands down. I mean, you have many other traits to it that I guarantee if you weren't a drummer, we'd still be connected in a really good way, right? So me and Tanner, we have here at the Portal, we have this sauna and we have an ice bath and we sit in the sauna and we just rap out. We just talk about, he goes on these tours, right? And so you go on these tours and they're really powerful. And I think where we left it last time, we were talking about panic attacks and we were just like, dude, what? We don't know. We don't know what it is. Like facilitate therapy. I mean, I have ideas or whatever, but it's like you're talking about your childhood. Your dad's like, supporting you. You know what I mean? Like you're like, what's wrong with you? Like, so if someone is like an adult and going, I have panic attacks. What happened when we were young? My dad just was always me and my mom. Like there's there's a little bit maybe, but not tons.
That would have been so brutal though as a kid to be told what's going on. Dude,
that?
Buck up. But that would have made it so much worse for me. But
something just happened for me when you're saying this, and I want to explore it. I could be way off. What if you know how capable you are at being awesome at something, and the pressure is there to fulfill that almost unconsciously?
Elaborate on that.
Okay. You're funny. Even when you're a kid, you know somewhere inside of you, you're gonna be accepted. And you know people are gonna like you. You're gonna be picking up on the teacher. You know when you go on tour, you're gonna kill it with drums and go. And then there's other aspects about being claustrophobic and stuck in situations. But in some way, I wonder if there's some way that you unconsciously put pressure on yourself to do something really good, and it's scary to go into it before it starts in case you don't.
I wish it was that. No, honestly, I think especially like if you go back to the 7th grade I'm throwing up, it's the fear of, it's putting like, let's say for instance, the 7th grade, it's putting all of what I was about to experience on a high pedestal.
Yeah.
And I'm not being present. And I still do it to this day to where there's a level of fear with the unknown in the future instead of me just being in the present and just taking it day by day and taking it moment by moment.
Rad. Okay. I think that ties into what I'm saying in a way, because if you're putting an experience that has yet to be had on a high level, it wouldn't be on a high level unless you were part of that high level. Do you know what I'm saying? Now let's retract the part of having to be perfect or knowing you're good or whatever, but there's an expectation there for things to go maybe just say a certain way. Doesn't have to be good or bad even.
No. Thankfully, thank God when it comes to like, especially these days, like I have a tour coming up and like I fear, like, am I going to do well or blah, blah, blah. Zero fear there. Zero anxiety there. Because I've done, it's probably because I've done so many gigs where I should have been in the hospital that like physically, mentally, whatever the moment was, right? I've done so many psychotic gigs in regards to where I was. I know I'm capable of it 100%. And I've done so many gigs on 1 day notice. I've done all this psychotic stuff that I can look back and be like, nah, I'm good. But oddly enough, I'll fear the car ride. I'll fear, let's say tomorrow we're going to Mammoth. What I'm going to fear is not, am I going to snowboard good? Or like, will the guys think I'm funny? I'm fearing, like that claustrophobia or like whatever. It's almost as if, I don't know what I would be fearing in 7th grade because I didn't even know what 7th grade was going to be, right? Like, but I guess that's that fear. But now I kind of subconsciously carry a knapsack full of my panic attacks around with me, whether it's subconscious or conscious. And then depending on what I'm invited to or what I have to do that day or whatever's next, I kind of just put my panic attack there. Well, if that's what we're going to do, here's what I've experienced before. And then I instead of just going into it fresh. And sometimes it's in my body. Sometimes I don't even know. Sometimes I'll sit there and my body's having a panic attack and I'm like, what the heck is going on?
That's the one that that's the one that stumped us, right?
What?
The stumper was like,
physical.
Remember, just like my body is having a panic attack right now. My mind is fully conscious about what's going on. There's nothing I'm afraid of. There's no, right?
But I think with what I'm assuming you've listened to and read kind of what I'm about to talk about in regards to like podcasts and doctor speaking, blah, blah, blah. But like, I'm assuming it's the neural pathways.
Yes.
I'm assuming it's the trauma and the things, but it's so insane that, for instance, I told you about it. I was on a little tram around the zoo the other day and I had a panic attack or high panic the entire time. In my mind, I'm going, that elephant's sick. And like, this is the sickest stuff ever. But my body's going, help, 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 help. I'm in fight or flight. And that's what's tough about what I experience is that mentally, most of the time I'm chilling, but my body has a different thing that it wants to go through in that moment. So it's tough. That's what I deal with. And a lot of the time when I express my anxiety to people, if it's on like a surface level thing, they don't really get it. Like, dude, your life is sick. It's like, no, I'm fully aware. Right. But my body, there's been so much fight or flight that it is very interesting to watch when it flares up because it's like my mind can be like, dude, this is the greatest stuff ever. I was in a Costa Rican waterfall 2 months ago having coming down from a full-blown panic attack. And I was like, why? Like, so it is interesting. We asked why, but like we could probably just go research real quick. And we probably should so we have a little better grasp.
I did some research, I think what I want to say too is we're going to be doing this you're going to be, when you're in town, so like I already said, Tanner's an amazing drummer. You're on tour. How many months out of the year do you tour?
This year, unfortunately, just 3.
Just 3.
24 now? 22 was 215 days on the road. Wow. Last year must have been 100. This year, 90 maybe.
Okay, great. So this is
So we're here. So this year I'll be here a lot.
Okay, great, because we need you here. I think it's a fun, I don't want to use the word challenge, but exploration
Yeah.
for us to have this conversation. I have an idea of what we could talk about. Take some space. Are you leaving soon?
Yeah.
How long are you going for?
3 weeks.
3 weeks. And then when you get back, we're going to have more information on this. I'm going to hit some of my heavy hitter support groups and ask around and get more into it and then come up with not figuring out how to fix it because there's nothing to fix, but figuring out maybe what's happening.
Yeah. It is interesting that neither of us have, like, it's this, brother. Well, even though we said it, it's from what I'm aware, it's pathways in your mind that have been created and associate with certain instances.
I want to say, without going into your total past, because there probably is some things back in the past, maybe somewhat, but like also hold the idea that, I don't know, do you believe in reincarnation?
I'm open to it.
You're open to it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like, there's so, answer me this question. Two twins are born. One goes to Yale and one goes to jail. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Happens all the time, right? And in my studies of my Kriya and my spirituality, there's spiritual prodigies that have spent a lot of their lives talking about, we come back again, and a lot of times we come in with residual traumas that are left over. Now, I don't want to go too much into that, right? So this is things I'm gonna explore and ideas to keep working through because I have we all have intuition, but I have an intuition that within a few months, we're going to be talking deep into this place, right? And I think it's fun to start right here. So just for starters, would you be willing to walk us through a couple things? Like you talked about the first time you had when you were a kid, but what about when you first said, this is a problem?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I was like currently dealing with like, I have anxiety and like this needs to be dealt with until that first panic attack. Because I know I had discovered Xanax around that time. And for me, it was just like, wait, what is that little thing? Like, you're telling me I could just be stress-free whenever I do it? Cool. So I would just like recreationally do it, right? And I don't know if I had it with me when I had my first panic attack. But that idea of anxiety and managing it medicinally was around that time. But because I think that first panic attack brought on suicidal stuff, it did. In my first panic attack, I wanted to kill myself.
Okay, so start. Where are you?
In Canada.
Okay, so this is your first panic attack. You're in Canada.
Yeah, so it was. I can paint the whole picture. We got a train.
Yeah, this is
coaster.
We call the emotional intelligence process train.
It's funny because it happened as I just said
Always.
I wanted to kill myself.
Oh my God,
Hey,
this
buds.
train. It's perfect timing to help us deal with our frustration.
So I know, obviously, I'm sure most people remember their first panic attack vividly, but it was 2010. It was the end of 2010. It was a rough tour. I was in the band Chiodos playing drums. It was with Atreyu, Chiodos, Architects, Lower Than Atlantis, maybe, or whatever. Let's say a couple more bands. Mm-hmm. The tour was rough. It was the second year I was in the band. Hadn't made a cent till then. Didn't make a cent in that band. So we're running around. You know what it is to be in a van and be eating hot dogs every day. And I wonder if
farts.
Yeah, I just wonder if huffing farts and eating microwave pizzas were adding to my mental decline.
Probably.
But there was always just too many people in our van, and it was just uncomfortable. So like forever, I've been claustrophobic, which I'm curious how my anxiety would be without it, because a lot of it is claustrophobia. And our van was 2 seats in front, 2 benches, and then we got rid of the last 2 benches and made a bed up top and a bed on the bottom. And the bed on the bottom was a prison.
A box.
And it's like, they tried to make me go there once, and not even as a joke. Like, dude, you have to switch it up. You have to sleep.
Well, everyone rotates. Not fair, right?
Well, lucky for me, people have had to cater to my claustrophobia, right. And lucky for me, because some people will be like, no, I don't care. Go in there. And so I never went in there.
Right.
So long story short, I'm on the top, and it's one of my bandmates, me, one of my bandmates. They're both alcoholics, so they are fully passed out. Who cares? None of the rest of them have claustrophobia, and they all are just like easier going than I am. At least their nervous systems in comparison to mine. So it's in the snow. It's in Canada. It's uncomfortable. We're broke. So everything's not really on our side. The shows probably sucked for us. Probably weren't selling a single thing at merch. Everything wasn't that great. But I was still in that era of like, who cares, rock and roll. I don't care if I have $50 to my name. Thankfully, I'm just still doing it. Whatever. So I'm in the middle of them two. And I don't know. I just couldn't go to sleep and just started crawling out of my skin. Hadn't felt that ever. Because anytime up until then, if I felt claustrophobia, I feel claustrophobia and I just get out of it. Get me out of the car, get me put in the seat. I had zero control over handling it then. And I had zero mental strength at that point. I had no meditation, no breathing. That wasn't a thing. This was 2010, It was not a thing. Or at least it wasn't a thing publicly. So yeah, I started crawling fully out of my skin. Wanted to jump out of the van because it was like, what is this? Get me the fuck out of here. Panic attack for sure. And then I got up out of where I was laying and went and sat in the first or second bench. And I pretty much put who was sleeping there. I put my guitarist's legs on mine so that he can continue sleeping. And he was like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And I'm like, "Yo, I just had a panic attack. Could I stay here?" And they're like, "Yeah, for sure. Okay." So I just sat there like, what the fuck? And it's like, I didn't even have like, it's not like I could like put my iPod on and like kind of relax now. I'm just sitting there. I didn't have an iPhone. I couldn't just like surf the web and do whatever. I'm just sitting with it now. Whatever. Okay, I'm sitting with it. And I felt better, I'm sure. And funny enough, I don't know, 30 minutes later or something like that, our car fully goes off the side of the road. Yeah, which I don't think I told you. And when I tell people the story, I just say, yeah, I had a panic attack, claustrophobia, whatever. They don't need to know the rest of the story. Because it's not that crazy or whatever. So yeah, now we're on the side of the road. Now it's like we're stuck in the ice in the middle of nowhere. No one has a cell phone. Like I think we had, droids or whatever we had. And it was just like, what the fuck? So now it's just me and my guitarist who's driving figuring this out. We're the only people awake. And long story short, we're in the middle of nowhere. Like, I just figured, okay, well, my phone probably can call 911. So I just called. I don't even know if that's the Canadian police number. Right. Called 911. Long story short, they eventually had to come find us and got us out. So of course, it's not like I got to be taken to like a diner after, like, Dan, shake it off, have a shower and let's.
Cops.
No, I'm getting pulled out of this ice hole by cops, only to have to go play a show that day. You know what I mean? Right. But definitely in the midst of that panic, I didn't know what was going on. I just knew this is the worst I've ever felt in my entire life. And I wanted to jump out of the car. And again, it was just foreign, right? Like imagine giving a panic attack to someone who's never
had one.
Yeah, to that extent, right? Because we talked a little bit about my childhood and like what I would deal with. And it was definitely comparable, but in those moments in my childhood, it was controllable. Right. If I really didn't want to go to school that day and I'm throwing up, my parents would have been like, all right, let's keep it home. And if I didn't really want to play baseball that day, my dad would have pulled me out. But all of them were kind of controllable. When I'm 21, 22, and I'm in the middle of Canada and I'm having panic attacks, I want to kill myself, there's not like a ton I could have done,
At what point did you want to kill yourself? Like, was it after you had some time after?
No, it was right
in
then.
The moment.
Right then,
on the side of the road?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, for sure. It was before we went off the side of the road.
So you're in the bench and you're holding the legs?
Yeah, and I was like, I just want to jump out, for sure.
Wow.
Yeah. And I forget about that.
Because it was so uncomfortable.
Yeah, what do you do?
Hopeless. There's nowhere to go. Yeah. I just need to end it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And lucky for me, in regards to the 2 or 3 times I've felt something like that, I don't think it came anywhere close to like, I'm going to do it. Nowhere close. Or I would be extra worried and I would be working extra harder on fighting away from that. And it is nice too that like if I do experience it, I experienced it, maybe a couple months ago, is recognizing it.
Right. Okay. So hold on a second, because I want to go into that. What I'd like to give is a contrast between when you had your first one, how what came up. I want to jump out of this van. And I have one more question on the first one. When you got the van was pulled out and you're kind of like, everything's kind of, the dust is settling and you're realizing what you just went through. Like, oh my God, like that just happened to me. Like I equate it to like maybe maybe my knee's hurting and I'm skateboarding a little bit, and then I like twist it wrong and I'm like, oh, my ACL's torn. Like that moment, like, oh, okay, this is real. I had this thing, which is a very minor example of a very drastic thing. Was your impulse to not tell anybody?
Yeah.
It was.
For sure.
Okay, right. So so just to reiterate, when you had your first panic attack, it went down, you're like, holy shit. And the impulse was, I can't tell anybody this because why?
I don't know. I just remember I told like my singer who I was closer with, but this is a perfect segue into what happened when I did tell people. Is like, I don't know why, because again, this is 2010.
Wait, okay, so you're saying it's a segue into years later?
No, that night.
That night, so you did tell people, but when it happened, you didn't. So, okay, so now...
So, like, maybe, like, and again, I must have told my guitarist right then that I had one, right? And, like, or kind of whatever, and, like, everyone was so hammered. I wasn't, but, you know, the alcoholics in the band were so hammered and so asleep that they obviously didn't know. But I had to tell somebody because I just went through the most horrific thing I've been through to an extent, right? And I think I might have told my singer, but yeah, that night I guess I decided like, okay, I'm gonna like tell people, which like these days I'm outspoken as I possibly can be, right? Like, because I just don't care, and I'm sure there's a level also that like just getting it out is nice, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I don't mean to interrupt you, and I'm always thinking about the kid that's terrified to leave his room right now, and I want that kid to hear how it was and what you do now, right? That's why I'm slowing this area down right now. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah. So like, and again, anyone that is sitting in their room or sitting wherever and going through what they're going through, you got to be thankful to an extent that it is like the awareness is so much crazier now than it was then.
Right.
Is that thank God if you were to speak to anyone about it, it's not a foreign taboo kind of subject, you know what I mean? Like, thank God if you go and talk to how anxious you are at Bonds to the lady checking your bag, she's gonna go, she's
gonna go totally. And so what you're saying essentially is to these kids is you're not alone. If you struggle with panic attacks, you're not alone.
No, thank God you can, you know, Google it, call somebody. How many call centers are there if you're having panic attacks right now?
And call and then check with us in 3 weeks because we're gonna get to the bottom of this, right? For sure. Me and you.
So that night I'm in Thunder Bay, Canada. We're at a hotel, and I don't know why. Mind you, this is 14 years ago, or let's say 13 because it was closer then. I went to and I'll say who it was. I don't really give a shit. I went to my keyboardist and my guitarist, I guess. And mind you, thankfully, like their horrific response to me having a panic attack was booze fueled. They were so hammered when I told them, and I shouldn't have told them if they're hammered, right?
Right.
Because like they weren't bad people, you know. But in that moment, my keyboardist wanted to fight me.
Wow. Well, okay. So what did you? So you walked over.
I went. And now I'm remembering.
Right.
And mind you, I don't associate my first panic attack with suicide either, because I guess it's something I forget to mention, right?
You don't want to?
No, I just don't.
You
don't.
I
just end up not because we're talking through it right now. I'm remembering. Wow. Oh yeah, I also wanted to kill myself.
So just okay, because is there a way you could just breathe for 1 sec, because that is a very heavy thing to say.
But it's also because people ask me what my first panic attack was.
Right.
And I just tell them, oh yeah, I was claustrophobic in a van.
Yeah.
So I think that's instead of me actively pushing that part of it away, it's just that when I tell people about it,
you don't want to go all the way into it.
Yeah, because especially if it's like a stranger, like a fan or whatever, I go, yeah, you know, I'm claustrophobic and I had my first one.
Yes.
So I think it's the act of simplifying it has made me push that factor away.
Yeah.
So what I'm remembering.
So it's not some big thing you don't want to look at.
Yeah, because instead I could go, the first time I wanted to kill myself was then. It's like, Jesus. All right. Yeah. All right. Intense, man. You're intense. All right. Whatever.
So like right out of the gates, you're like, hey, nice to meet you. Just
Great
so you know, I shouldn't be here because I was going to kill myself because of a panic. Right. Got it. But right now you're saying suicidal ideations.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that night, I don't think I knew to like first tell my band that like, hey guys, I had like a panic attack last night. I just straight went and told them, hey guys, I like went through this thing, like I wanted to kill myself last night, you know? And he told me why he flipped. Mind you, they had to hold him back
in hindsight
from fighting me.
Not then.
He had to tell me like the next day.
Okay,
or maybe in that moment or whatever it was. I barely remember. I just remember we were in a hotel and they're holding him back from fighting me. And I'm sitting there, a fragile little piece of meat. Like, what's going on? You know, sober, you know, like I probably barely drank at that point. I was just like, oh, okay, like you're going to fight me? Okay, whatever. But he associated, his drunken self associated it with me quitting.
Oh, quitting
and
the
he
band.
didn't want me to quit the band. And it's like, that's weird.
Yeah.
So I told you the most vulnerable thing I could tell. And again, this is 2010. We're not sitting there having
one
vulnerable
does.
chats. It's what's up, you know, like,
Yeah.
let's go drink. And it was all surface level. So yeah, he associated with me kind of threatening that I'll leave the band. And it's like, if I wanted to, so if I came up to you in the middle of this tour and said, bro, I wanted to kill myself. I was like, I don't know if I can do this. You're going to fight me?
Yeah.
Booze fueled. You know how it
totally booze fueled, selfish. I don't know. We usually get a little selfish and self-centered when we're drunk, right? Make it about us. But he probably felt threatened.
Yeah, exactly.
There was a threat, like you said the word threat, but I feel threatened. Oh, this is happening to you. You're going to leave me, and I make it about myself.
And it probably wasn't 2 beers in. He's probably 20 in. So it's like whatever went through his mind there isn't even something that I would care to like dive into.
You know what else too? Sometimes people get angry when feelings come up for them. Maybe he didn't want to lose you. You know, maybe he's like, oh, I don't want to feel that. That's too much to feel. Right?
And if anything, I hate to throw them under the bus, but this is us 14 years ago. I'm sure they're different humans now. Each member of the band was the complete opposite of vulnerability, especially in that era.
Yeah.
They were all, 2 of them or 3 of them, depending on the time, were complete alcoholics. They're not working on themselves.
Right.
It's not, you know, so like, it wasn't the best place for me to be vulnerable.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And then the next day. Okay, so you say this to these guys. He gets really angry. It probably takes all the attention off of everybody else, right? So the whole event is like he's like threatened by you, coming at you, and it kind of dissolves. The next day, what happens?
All I remember is I had a female tour manager at the time who was really rad, and she kind of just told me, "Yo, I got your back if you ever need anything." Other than that, I don't really remember. I don't think I had a ton of like anxiety for the rest of the trip, and like. The headliner would let me ride on the bus all the time, which the band resented, which is such a funny thing. I don't know if you ever rode with bigger bands.
Oh my God, we had fights.
And unless you literally have to drive, it's just a jealousy thing.
Totally.
And I've done it. One of the tours I went on, I broke my ankle or whatever it was. I tore ligaments in my ankle, and I rode on the headliner's bus the entire tour. And the guys there was enough drivers, it's all good, but like they're definitely upset.
Yeah.
And I'm living the life in there, you know what I mean? But I wouldn't care. At the end of the day, my mental health or my physical health on that tour far exceeds whatever they're dealing with. You know what I mean? But I don't remember, honestly. I just remember just like on other tours or even tours to this day, you just end up hanging out with other people because you're around your boys so much that like, I'm going to go hang out with the other people. So I just ended up hanging out with the other bands, and I don't honestly remember a ton of anxiety after that.
There's not really much follow-up if someone's in active alcoholism type thing. You know what I mean? Like there's no like, hey, I really thought about this. No. So, okay, so then that is
I'm sure he apologized. Like to the extent of from what that was to the after effect, I'm sure he just like apologized and it was whatever.
Right. So the first one comes out of nowhere. I have no idea what's going to happen. The best thing I can do is kill myself. Then I take a risk and try and tell people, and then they attack me. Wow, 2010. Now, and you kind of talked about this a little bit when we were hanging out before. So your last tour, right?
Yeah.
You want to go through that one and how you dealt with it?
For sure.
And like, so you can see the difference in, so how, like, let's just name this. So I'm going to name this in the camera. How do you deal with a panic attack now?
Yeah. So first and foremost, it depends, where am I? What am I doing? Because if I'm having a panic attack in my hotel room, I can sit there and I can do a whole breathing routine. I can take 5 different natural things and I can do a million things, right? What if I'm having a panic attack on stage? What if I'm having a panic attack? It really depends, right? So for this tour, my panic was it's always in uncomfortable moments. It's not when you're comfortable. So it is in moments where you are, I'm not really embarrassed when I have one, but it's like, ugh, here we go, like I'm surrounded. a lot of the time I think what I deal with is I deal with being a tad upset at myself by killing the vibe a little bit. Or to an extent of like I look around and everyone's having a blast and I'm like, here I go again. I'm the fragile guy, you know what I mean? Which again, you would never think, right? I'm 180 pounds, 6 foot, covered in tattoos.
Right.
You wouldn't associate my aesthetic with fragile boy. Yeah, a lot of the time I'm a fragile little guy. And that's okay. It's okay to be fragile.
Yeah, no, I love that you own that. That's so powerful.
Oh, life is far too short.
If you're very integrate, you've done work on yourself. Yeah. Like people I work with, that would be the first area I would go into is the judgment of being fragile.
Yeah.
And usually people would go like, no, I'm not okay being fragile. And that is the cornerstone of the panic attack. You know what I mean? This is why we're going really deep with you. We're trying to like...
Which is interesting to like who I invite to come podcast, because I'm kind of inviting you to, are you down to be fragile and vulnerable
100%.
With cameras? And like, I think it takes a certain amount of fragile practice for you to finally go, I'll do it anywhere. I'll tell that homeless dude over there that I'm having a panic attack. You know what I mean? Whatever.
I'm into connection, and connection comes through allowing whatever is in the moment to fully come in. And so if it's fragile, if it's sadness, if it's anger, if it's joy, if it's pleasure, any of those things, if we accept that as part of what's happening here, then we get to connect on a deeper level. So you got the right person here with you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, for sure. And I should accept my panic attacks more instead of resist them.
Well, yeah.
Even to dive into that and applying that to...
I think we're going to go in. Yeah, I think that's the direction we go. And another thing is that when you admit you're fragile, it makes it safer for me to admit that I get fragile too.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
Every single person on planet Earth gets fragile or is fragile at some point.
Yeah.
So if you don't speak on it, you're just being ignorant to an extent, or you're not, or if you don't own it even privately, you're just lying to yourself.
Yeah. And what is fragile? The word sensitive comes up too.
Yeah.
Sensitive. Fragile to me is, I like fragile, but you seem like just a sensitive guy that has a big heart. Yeah. You seem like you're very loyal and that you will show up for people. You're a ride or die bro, right?
I try. Lord have mercy.
Yeah.
I try. That sounds way I'd like to be described.
It feels like that to me a little bit, you know?
But you asked, what does it feel to have a panic attack now? In regards to that tour.
Okay, no, like I want you to keep going. The first thing that comes up for me is, oh shit, here we go. So you're conscious. You're conscious, like, oh my God, here it goes, and I'm gonna ruin the moment for everyone. Here's sensitive guy. Here's fragile guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we talked about it when we sauna the other day. The unfortunate thing about my anxiety, and the reason I say unfortunate is because it's just kind of harder to manage, harder to deal with in the moments, is it's typically 100% physical. And we were just talking about why. So for me, like just day one of that tour, I don't even know where. I mean, I'm on the way to the first day of tour. I'm always a little anxious. Because I go from doing whatever I want with my fiance and my cats and we're just vibing, and San Diego's the best place on the planet, to I'm in a 45-minute Uber to go to the airport. And probably because I've had so many panic attacks in airports, it's not my happy spot, right? And mind you, most of the time I'm fine these days. I used to have to take a Xanax every time I went to the airport. I used to have to carry a Ziploc bag full of shots. Little Jack Daniel's shots on me.
Wow.
Because one, and I'm ready to go. Like, I'll do one. My dad always told me, dude, just it's okay to go have a drink before the flight, right? Yeah. How many businessmen do you see at the bar having a drink before their flight? So I would always, okay, I'm going to do that. And it came to a point where I'm like, I don't want to do anything. I'd rather just feel the anxiety than to be suppressing it, right? And we all know what actively suppressing anxiety with booze or Xanax or whatever it does. So automatically I'm not the most comfortable I can be, and I get to the airport, and at some point during that first day on the way to Mexico City, my body's speaking up, which is tough for me. And the reason why I say it's unfortunate is because rarely do they coincide with how I am mentally. And a lot of it's subconscious. A lot of it, and we talked about resistance. A lot of me was resisting the length of that tour.
Right.
Or resisting having to do this 12-hour fly day and whatever. So I think I'm figuring it out loud. Is a lot of it's subconscious.
Right. Resisting leaving your cats and your girl.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. The easy, simple.
Yeah, you're a drummer.
life.
You get to go. It's work.
Yeah.
It is work. You know what I mean? So yeah, the resistance towards
Yeah. And at home, it's my peace and my mental health and my day-to-day, they're so coddled without me coddling it. Mm-hmm. They're so easy. And and I'm lucky for them to be easy. So lucky, right? Like I could have to come home and immediately go to my 9 to 5. Or I could go be the trash man. I could go work at Vaughn's. I could go do whatever. But it's interesting that it plays into like the amount of free time I have at home matched with idle hands causes tours to be overwhelming for me because now I'm on schedule 24/7. Right. I'm sleeping in a foreign bed in a foreign room every night. I'm with all these people, surrounded by people at all times. I have to go play this concert, which playing metal drums in front of 20,000 people is very different than sitting on my couch watching a documentary. So it is a lot subconscious because consciously I know that life is sick. My job is the sickest thing on the planet. I'm so lucky to just even be here in this room with someone I looked up to my whole life. Like I'm consciously aware of all of this, but my subconscious is very weak and fragile and fearful a lot of the time. And without me being conscious of it, I'm walking into the airport with a powerful guy and a fragile guy.
Yeah.
And that fragile guy will cause my body to freak out. And the confident guy will be going, what's going on? What are we doing here?
Right.
Well, life's a blast.
Right.
I'm getting paid to fly today. We're all good.
Right.
Subconscious is powerful.
Right.
Very powerful. So at least for me on that tour to start my journey of, oh my God, this is hectic, is I was just resisting the length and I was putting all the travel and all this, instead of just living in the present moment and doing my day-to-day, I put the hardness and the difficulties of what might come on this huge pedestal.
Right. Dude, let's try something.
Yeah.
You just named two different sides.
Mm-hmm.
Sensitive or fragile guy, powerful guy.
Which I just read a book that said I should name.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I should name. I don't remember what it was telling me to name, either the powerful guy or the other guy, but it was telling me I need to name those.
Let's just name powerful guy, fragile guy.
Well, my name is Andrew and I go by Tanner, so.
Okay, so you want to name those. Okay. But what I noticed when powerful guy talked to fragile guy, it was a little kind of like, what the fuck? Judgment. Like
as much as I don't want it to be, and I know I'm not supposed to.
Yeah.
There's a level of frustration. I think that's
like,
what it is.
Come on,
yeah,
dude.
Like, oh, here we go.
Here we go. Okay, now when powerful guy says to fragile guy, "Come on, bro," jump into fragile guy. Mm-hmm. What does fragile guy want to say back? What does fragile guy need to hear from powerful guy?
I mean, you're supposed to sit there and say it's all good. We're all good.
So
it's okay.
Fragile guy says, dude, don't do that. Can you just tell me, can you be with me in this?
What's tough is the third guy.
Okay, third guy. Where's the third guy?
Which is my body.
Yeah.
Is being like, I don't give a shit what either of you are saying.
We're doing this.
I am in fight or flight right now.
Okay, so is body a third guy or is body fragile guy?
Body's probably fragile.
Okay, so let's
because that's what I deal with.
Let's try and do this, right? This is going to be something, okay. Powerful guy isn't curious. He's not curious. He's just like, no, dude, don't fuck this up for us again, right? He's just already in a judgment. The judgment is, what the fuck's wrong with you, fragile guy, right? That's a judgment, right?
Yeah.
And he's going, everything's fine. He's not curious. So when I'm working with when someone pisses me off, I don't go, you did this. I'm curious, what's happening for you? It's a powerful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I do that all the time.
Let's frame powerful guy as this judgmental, kind of like, can't you be like, come on, bro, right? Are you just okay for you? This is cool, right? Fragile guy is going, what would he say he needs from you? You just said it kind of, but go a little bit more into it. Like, hey, dude, I need you to be with me. It's not okay. Can you just, like, how do we mend these two together? We do this a lot in therapy sometimes, right? Mm-hmm. How do we combine these two together? Because there is a resistance there between the two polar opposites.
Yeah. It is. Yeah, I'm curious. I would love to know because, like, consciously, and I journal about it, is like I'm fully aware of how, like, let's say I'm going to the airport and I'm going to the plane and I'm going to Mexico City. Consciously, I know that's awesome.
Yes.
I get to go in a free Uber that the band's paying for.
That's powerful, guy.
And I get to fly, I think I flew first class, or let's say, and I get to go play a festival of Slipknot.
Yeah, that's powerful, guy, right?
Epic.
Okay, now listen. This is the part that I think is going to be hard for you. This is the part we need to go in. We know powerful guy. Mm-hmm. You got that guy down. Mm-hmm. That guy's like, talk for it, take a risk. Talk from fragile guy straight to powerful guy about what you need when you start to panic right now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, say fragile guy is starting to kick in. Don't worry about powerful guy. Get really sensitive. Get into the sensitivity, and just say what you need.
I mean, no clue other than acceptance.
Great. So just feel while you say this too.
Yeah.
You feel anything happening in your body when we talk about this? It's okay if you don't.
Yeah, a little anxiety.
You do. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, so we're clear about powerful guy. Sensitive guy goes like this. Yo, I just need you to let me have this.
Yeah, because it like and still, it for me, I always get confused as well, if I'm consciously aware of how sick all this is.
But it's not.
I don't let him speak up a lot.
Okay, so now right now,
I don't even know.
In this moment, right here today, give sensitive guy a moment to talk.
Yeah. It's just fear.
It's fear.
Yeah.
And it's like, don't leave me.
Or let's go home.
Let's go home.
I want to fight or flight.
Okay.
All day long.
Great.
Why are we here?
Great. Why are we here? Now,
I don't want to be here.
Well, I don't want to be here. Now, imagine this. If powerful guy could soften a little and be like, look, you probably want to go home because I'm not with you in this. Mm-hmm. Like, let's not try and, I'm not going to try and convince you that you shouldn't be this way. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to say, fucking A, we're at the airport. I'm not going to say, what's wrong with you? Everything's great. We're getting on a plane, right? You know what I mean? Like, okay, I'm with you. Let's be in it together without any kind of judgment. Am I kind of on a little bit? Like, I'm not, like, we dropped the idea that everything should be okay. How do you do that?
The only times I've like,
we're not going home, but I'm with you.
A lot of the times, it depends what's going on. Like, if I can positively distract myself, put some music on, kind of get away from my head in those moments, I can fight through it. But
well, what's the fight? This is what I'm saying, is that it's always the sensitive part of you having to align to the powerful part where everything's good. It's always that way. How do you get the powerful part to just surrender and say, hey, I'm not going to talk about everything being good and right? Like, let's just be in this together and not go home.
So I'm realizing I was trying to figure out, what do I do in those moments to talk to Fragile Boy? And the time where I do the most is journaling. And I've learned, especially with us talking like this, that my journaling, I always say that, I always think of it as like it's my higher self talking to my lower self or something like that, right? But let's say for this moment, most of my journaling, it's not prompted, and it's my strong self talking to my fragile self. Yes. And there is a ton of acceptance there, and it is, hey, it's all good, man. Yeah. And that's what a lot of my journaling is. It's gratitude, but it's painting the picture of what's actually happening. Hey, we're in Mexico. This is sick. Yeah. This is all good. It's okay to feel like this, and it's not going to be forever. So I do sit there. Yes. But it's, well, what I can't whip out my journal when I'm in security, right? Mm-hmm. I can't whip out my journal when I'm in everything isn't as comfortable as I'd like to be 24/7 in regards to managing my mental health. But I do have those conversations with anytime I journal. I am my higher self or my stronger self talking to my lower self.
Same thing we're talking about, but on paper.
Exactly.
So awesome. Yeah, great.
So I am because again, I've read every book. I've read all the books, right? And no one's read every book, but you know what I mean. I've read so many mental health books in regards to how to speak with myself, and the frustration and the anger of like, what's going on, dude? Here we go again, blah, blah, blah. That's pretty subconscious. I rarely sit there because I know if I sit there and let's say I'm in a van ride and I'm having a panic attack, I know the last thing you want to do is go, what the fuck?
Right.
What the fuck is this shit?
Right.
You know that does absolutely nothing. And if anything, it does way worse for you to be like that. So in those moments...
Well, there's no healing in it, right? It's a judgment. We can't feel what wants to come through.
Exactly.
Like, so if my sensitive guy is like, I'm fucking terrified, I feel scared, and my powerful guy is like, dude, what the fuck's wrong with you? Then I can never feel the fear.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah. Okay, so you're in the airport, and do you want to walk through, what were you going to walk through as far as the panic attack in the present day? Were you going to go to the waterfall experience, or were you going to just start? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, because that was the first. I had a ton of anxiety, but in terms of like, oh, I have to like fight a panic attack right now, that was like the one, which was more frustrating than normal because I'm on and my band knows this in case people are thinking, did he not tell? The whole band knows I'm sitting there having a panic attack.
Yeah, totally, yeah.
And let me paint the picture for you. It is the South American tour is done. It was super hectic. It was just and mind you, it would give most people anxiety, right? It wasn't like I'm in paradise and I'm flying first class and like everything's like super smooth. I was sleeping 4 hours a night. I had to play a show almost every day, flights every day, barely eating food because we had no time to eat food. And if we ate food, it'd be the food on the plane or it'd be a snack here and there. So like in terms of like physical health, especially partnered with no sleep, we were all in the perfect place to have anxiety, right? I'm just the guy in the band that has anxiety. So by the time we got to Costa Rica, I had the opportunity to, I think we talked about this, I had the opportunity to come on this guided tour of Costa Rica, my first time there, which I had pressure of like, I gotta see this, right? And I've never had that pressure anymore because I've seen, I've been to 50, 55 countries, something like that. So lucky enough, when I go to certain places, I have zero pressure to go see anything because I've seen it and it's all good and whatever. So I had I either go on this journey with my boys, which was like 3 to 6 hours a day in the van, all these foreign experience because I wasn't really described the trip, all things that give me anxiety, right? Especially after 2 weeks of doing it, right? Mm-hmm. You're telling me I'm going to choose to do it now, or I could have sat at the resort and meditated and done yoga for 2 days. Everything in me was being like, bro, you have 5 more weeks of tour, maybe you should stay. And then my pressure was like, you gotta go see the waterfalls and the monkeys. Like, this is gonna be sick. Yeah. Even if I'm panic attacking through it, you'll be thankful that you saw it. And I am thankful that I saw it. The monkeys were sad, but we'll get to that later. So I said, okay, rock and roll, let's go. Okay, well, if you're gonna go, it's 6 a.m. tomorrow. Holy fucking shit. And we'll get back to the hotel at 1. Holy shit. Okay, so I'm going to get like 3 hours of sleep. Okay. So on our way we go. And in hindsight, what the trip was an incredible 2-day guided trip through Costa Rica with our buddy who lives there. And we eventually ended up at like his Airbnb. That was incredible. And we're at the beach. We're seeing monkeys. We're seeing dogs. We're doing incredible, right? But my nervous system was so shot at that point and so overloaded that rather than walking into the convenience store to buy a cool coconut water, I'm just like inside flipping out.
Right.
Which I'm lucky that I'm just a seasoned vet with anxiety at these days, that I'm able to kind of recognize what's going on in my body and kind of recognize, instead of being like, what is going on? I got to call the doctor. I got to call 911, right? I'm aware that my nervous system is overloaded. So fast forward to, let's say, the second day. The second day, again, it was another, we got to wake up at 6 a.m. And I am not a morning guy. So automatically anxiety. I have to wake up early. Even if it's wake up early to go to Disneyland, I have anxiety that I am going to even if I get the whole amount of sleep, I associate super early mornings with anxiety. It's when I feel anxiety a lot of the time. So was worried about that. Whatever, let's just rock it. We were going to a waterfall. Like, I love waterfalls. This is sick. Let's do it, you know? So we get in the van, we go, and at that point, especially because my nervous system was so overloaded, any foreign thing that I was going to go through was just extra anxiety inducing, right? Mm-hmm. So we get to the waterfall. And I'm far aware that I'm so lucky to be experiencing this. And we just played a concert 2 nights before in Costa Rica, which I never in my life would think I'd play a sold out concert in Costa Rica, right? Like, I didn't even know that many metalheads existed, let alone whatever, right? So like that insane. So I'm glad that at least there's a conscious part of me of appreciation, right? Because if I'm doing all this stuff and I'm going through 7 weeks of tour and I'm actually just miserable, then what the hell are we doing here? I'm fully aware that I just need to work on myself and blah, blah, blah. Right. So we get to the waterfall spot, and it was one of those, hey, jump in this truck and let's drive to this waterfall. We had to off-road to this waterfall in this giant truck. And I have no idea why. Pretty much the moment I got in that truck, boom, panic moment. And then I had to sit there and reverse nostril breathe until we got to the waterfall. Mm-hmm. And it was just you're just off-roading. Mind you, you're off-roading in the jungle. And if you were to look around, it was the most beautiful shit I've ever seen. Incredible. I'm in the Costa Rican jungle. I'm going to a waterfall and I don't have to walk to it. Sick. This is sick. My body was, and I'm thinking out loud here, and I'm solving out loud, right?
Yeah, great. It's
I'm thinking just the fact that I'm sitting there going like this was probably enough for my body to be like, I'm done. Yeah. I don't want to do this. Right. Mentally, I'm sitting there going, this is all good. Yet in my body was full fight or flight. I don't want to fucking be here. I'm flipping the fuck out. So initially, what I do now when I have a panic attack is I simply control the breathing, right? I've spoke with Brandon about it a little bit, that when my anxiety happens, a lot of the time, it is unfortunate that I'm fully taken over physically. And my breathing goes from normal to boom, 50% gone. Wow. Sorry. It's like someone removed a lung, right? Wow. Now I'm breathing with half of my capacity and it's manual, which most of the time is not that great, especially if you don't know how to sit there and breathe. Right. If you're sitting there doing only mouth or only nose, right? I've learned that only nose that could be good. That could be great. If you just sit there and only nose breathe, that's way better than only mouth breathing, right? Go read the book Breathe, which gave me anxiety, and I had to stop reading it because it just made me so neurotic about my breathing, right? That breathing out of your mouth is horrific. It's what's turned all of us into ugly humans, right? Yeah. So I'm sitting there, and what I do now is I sit there and shout out Dr. Huberman, is I'll do a decent inhale, belly breathing, make sure the belly's out, and then I'll do pursed lips, exhale, pretty slow and controlled, all the way out, Back in, more focus on the exhale. Back in the day, I was more focusing on the inhale. What I didn't know is that will give you a panic attack. I had no idea, and I would just be dizzy now, right? I thought that, take a deep breath, brother, take a deep breath. Well, what kind of deep breath? And what I've learned through Dr. Huberman and other people, the exhale is what you want to focus on. And I remember what hydrogen, oxygen, what you're doing. There's something that you're doing in that matter, and I didn't know that for years. I'm going...
You're not aware of the X, and you're just back in with the new one. Yeah,
I'm breathing right now. There's more science to breathing now, and lucky for all of us, we can download breathing apps and all this stuff, right? Totally, yeah. So now, in through the nose with a nice belly out, and then breathe all the way out. So I'm doing that. That's not working enough. I'm like still this. Going. That's not doing it. Okay. Yeah. Now I'm going to alternate nostril breathing, which I've learned is a really good way to slow your nervous system down. Right. Even if you think nothing's happening, you just sit there and do it, and Google alternate nostril breathing. There's tons of videos, and that can kind of get you out of it, right? Well, it didn't matter. Lucky for me, the trip was kind of short, right? Mm-hmm. Like the drive was short, and I went above and beyond to be like, you know what? I don't give a fuck what anyone thinks. I don't care if anyone thinks I'm the weirdo, right? Like, lucky for me, my band knows I panic, and my band knows I have panic attacks. Is I just sat there, stood up, and there's all types of tourists around me, and I just sat there with my eyes closed and alternate nostril breath.
Yeah.
And I remember the driver asking someone in Spanish, "What the fuck, is he okay? What is he doing?" And our assistant was like, "Oh, he's tired," or whatever he said, right? Yeah. Which is funny too, because like, you know, he didn't want to be like, he's having a panic attack, right, and he's all good. Like, he didn't know how to deal with his own anxiety, so he's just a little tired, man.
Right.
So I sat there, just posted up in like this famous waterfall, and I'm just sitting there, all this thing, right? And it helped a little bit, you know. Right. And at that point, I was at the waterfall, so I just knew, hey, we're out of the car, whatever. Now I'm free. It's that freedom. A part of that too is, I'm sure it didn't help that, like, let's say I don't want to be in the car right now. There's not a lot you can do when you have to be in the car, right? Totally. And that goes along with certain panic attacks or certain anxiety I experience. So just having the freedom to be out in the world. I could have sprinted up the mountain at that point. I have freedom. I'm out of the car. We're all good. And I went to the waterfall, and lucky enough, now I'm at a waterfall. And there is a lot of people around, but lucky enough, now I'm at a waterfall. So, and the waterfall is freezing, which is good, right? In terms of shocking your nervous system out of a panic attack. So yeah, we went straight down to the waterfall and took my clothes off, jumped in the waterfall, freezing, which is like, okay, cool. Went over to a rock and just started meditating and basking in the sun. But at that point, it was too little too late in regards to how just like unhealthy my body and mind were in that place of weeks of not healthy trip for any of us, really.
Right.
And mind you, I forgot I had a panic attack the day before. It was just because it was too hot. And at that point, I was just so fragile that anything could have given me a panic attack. It was just like I was overloaded, right? But in that moment, I sat there on the beach having lunch. Beautiful. I'm having a panic attack during it because I could not cool down. Costa Rica, you're so hot. You're so incredibly hot. It was when was it? Hey, Coaster. November, I don't know when we were there, whatever. It was so hot, bro.
Yeah,
it was probably 90 degrees, and when I looked, it was 95% humidity. Lil Tan doesn't like humidity, right? So I'm sitting on the beach, and it was just like pouring sweat. And I've learned from watching certain videos that I've heard that holding onto an ice cube as hard as you can, or a handful of ice cubes, can get you out of a panic attack. So I'm asking the waiter for ice, and thankfully in that moment my band allows me to have a panic attack, right? Like I'm in a different place now. The mental health awareness is different now, and they look at me knowing he's struggling, you know what I mean? So it helps me feel less embarrassed or like a buzzkill, right? So I'm sitting there holding on the ice, it ain't working. I'm rubbing on my neck, and I'm just drenched. And that's another thing. If I'm drenched in sweat and I can't cool down, I'll start freaking out a little bit, like, because I'm rarely in any circumstance that's like that, right? Lucky enough, because I'm able to be vulnerable in front of everybody, I'm sitting there going, hey, where's the driver? Can I go sit in the AC for a minute, right? Went, sat in the first bench, put the air on me, and I just sat there and alternate nostril breath, and within 5 minutes, fully out of it. Good.
Wow.
Good. I'm good. Cool. But what I struggle with sometimes, you don't have a car full of air conditioning and this stuff, right? You don't have that 24/7 when you're dealing with stuff. I might be on the late night TV, right, freaking out in front of
on the couch,
5 cameras, right? There isn't.
Oh, you might be on the TV.
Yeah,
totally.
I might be on national television. Yeah, right here. So
you just don't know, and it's like, I think the message here is that if you struggle with panic attacks, you're not alone.
No.
And they're not, there's no shame in it, right?
Yep.
And then also, we're going to line ourselves out for when you get back to go deeper into this. And because it's my job to be prepared to bring us into deeper places surrounding that.
Yep.
And we're going to do a little more research on it.
Yep. Let's do it.
Does that sound good?
Sounds incredible, man. Very thankful. So I'm hitting up Brandon the whole time going,
yes, I'm
freaking out, brother. I'm in Ecuador. I can't breathe. What are we going to do? And he was there for me. Hey man, call me when I can. And that was a part of it too, is like, when I do get a free moment, do I want to talk about my anxiety for an hour? Because when we were like, hey, like we were trying to figure out scheduling, like, hey, when can you call me? by the time I got to that moment where I literally can take an hour and have a phone call, I didn't want to talk about it.
You were out.
It's
Yeah.
like, fuck, I kind of want to break from it.
Yeah.
You know
This
what I
is like, just to be completely authentic here. It's a difficult thing. I mean, there's so many, you got depression, sadness, all these things. There's ways to, this one right here is, I think it's a fun challenge. Sorry that you're the one that's going through that too.
But to be like fully like open about it, I've had anxiety this whole time talking about it.
I know.
Yeah.
I could tell when we came, I was going to ask you when we first came in, but I didn't want to go right into it, right? Just because this is the first you're a very high profile person. This is the first what an honor for me to be the first person, the first in person.
And you'd think I'd be claustrophobic.
Yeah, and you said, well,
rig.
I don't know. I'm just really excited to dig into it moving forward, right? And I want you to know that while you're gone, I think maybe just knowing you have someone to call. And then just, even if it's not, and here's something that's awesome. For me, when I get support with my friends, I always think it has to be some profound, long conversation. 5 minutes. Yeah, dude. I'm just checking in. I just want
being able to talk to someone who knows it.
Well, just like, hey, I had one yesterday. I just want to let you know. I just like, and then I think this is my intuitions coming through. You starting to be part of Portal and speak about this in some ways is going to be, I guess, an antidote towards these situations as they move forward.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I don't know how that is yet, but I feel like it is.
Yeah, the more you hold shit in, it's not very helpful for yourself. Yeah. But I'm also lucky, like, at least when I'm out there. Well, speaking of you and your help and you being available for me, that's a thing that's huge for me. Just be able to even text you, right? And be like, yo, I'm fucking here for you. That's it. Is the other people I have to text are two therapists. One costs $75, one costs $100. Yeah. And that's what I associated it with, right? Is like, not to discount, I should be paying you, and I'm gonna soon. I'm gonna pay you with love, and
you pay me with love,
I'll be your drummer forever. But that's what I associate with is like shit. That's like he's not my bro, right? Like totally. One of them is like kind of my friend, you know, he's like my guy, you know?
Yeah.
But it's different when you have to book a therapy appointment compared to lucky enough I have a new bassist who's very, very inclined with his mind, or however you'd like to say it, right? He's a yoga teacher. I can hit him up and be like, I'm struggling. Yeah. And he might not have a bag full of antidotes, but he has a bag full of love and a bag full of just welcoming. Like, hey, what's going on, man? Let's go on a walk. You know
I think in those situations, it's just more powerful.
Yeah.
And I want to be that for you. Yeah. I don't want to be a therapist. I'm just your friend. You know what I mean? I think that, like, I'm just curious to see, keeping on moving forward, the more and more we open these things up, the more and more kids start responding and going, oh my God, thank you for saying that. There's something magical about that. There's something healing about that. That just seems to be how it goes, right?
Yep.
I know for me, the way that I stay sane is by sharing my story. And when I hear that me sharing my story has an impact on somebody else, I notice that when I go back into the thing that I was going through before, it's lightened in some way. You know what I mean? It's just this ripple effect. So.
Yeah. Well, I hope I experienced that. That sounds fun. But it has been rad to have fans come up and say, hey, thank you for speaking out.
Well, I'm excited to see the next 3 weeks. And I hope you text me and just keep in touch. And dude, there's no demand for it to be an hour or a half hour or 15 minutes or anything. It can be if it wants. It's just like, hey, this happened yesterday. You know what I mean? Or I'm doing good. Nothing happened, you know, just like we're texting, we're in connection. Yep. Let's do that. And then let's come back in this room and see what's happened in those 3 weeks.
And let's find someone who can answer our physical anxiety questions.
I think we need to get David Sutcliffe in here. My buddy, David Sutcliffe is, like, I would say, I call him my big brother. He's about 5 years down the road past me, and we went to the same school, but this dude is a master. But let's not discount the idea that I've accepted the challenge among myself to go figure out other ways too. So.
And then we discovered some stuff in us while we just thought out loud during this. So yeah,
I love it.
We're capable.
Okay, so what we want to say to everybody out there in the world is, here we go. This is what we're getting into. This is what the H37P podcast is all about, is trying to find ways to connect in our struggle so that maybe you guys out there can find a way to connect with us with your struggles, and we get through all of this together. Does that sound good?
That sounds great.
Peace out. Thank you.